I'm very pleased to welcome you to this discussion about university partnerships and continuing the discussion regarding knowledge-driven economies and how labor markets and future employment will be affected by the development of higher education. David, if I can start with you from your perspective of IMD Business School, welcome. And could you kind of give a sort of overview of where curriculums are at the moment? Curriculums or curricula, and the impact of AI and other trends such as climate and disruptive effects on what's happening in the future going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. And this is a fascinating conversation about change and transformation in our world, in our organizations, and what that means for us as leaders steering those organizations. So at IMD, we're primarily focused on executive education. We help leaders and organizations transform. And our mission is real learning and real impact. And so that means we have to be very close to the bleeding edge and making sure that our programs, our curriculums do in fact reflect the rapidly changing needs of leaders and organizations. And so if you look at what we teach today in our programs, you'll find a lot of content on AI, many of the issues that were just discussed before, how AI is transforming work, how is it transforming organizations, what are the implications for society. Of course, we spend a lot more time analyzing geopolitical trends, what's going to happen next in terms of trade conflicts and so on. And of course, sustainability has become really important. And so these are topics you wouldn't have seen as prominently a few years ago. And we need to develop the knowledge and the skills. You mentioned sustainability. How do you do materiality analysis? How do you think about the life cycle of a product? How do you build circular business models? When it comes to AI, understanding some of the underlying technologies, what AI can do and cannot do, as we heard before. But at the same time, I think we need to be somewhat cautious that we're not falling into the trap of sort of chasing the latest and missing perhaps the most important. And I went back to last year's World Government Summit, and it was right here at this event that Jensen Huang, the CEO of NVIDIA, told people that they should stop sending their kids to coding school. I don't know if anybody remembers this. And I have a lot of friends who went into an absolute panic attack after having spent thousands of dollars sending their kids to learn Python. And of course, the point was AI can do it better. And so to me, the most important thing is how do we also ensure, as we adapt curricula to be current, that we focus on the fundamentals, on critical thinking, on understanding what evidence is, on understanding how you evaluate a hypothesis, how you make an argument, how you defend an argument, and ultimately, how do we help people learn how to learn? Because if there's one thing that's certain is that people are going to have to continue to learn over and over and over the course of their careers and lives.
A very good point there on sort of being able to continue to learn. I'll come to you, Iman, at EGA, a key employer in the UAE, but of course also continuously developing your own talent as well. And where does the nexus between EGA and universities and what's been your thinking in terms of how to enhance innovation and cooperation there?
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here today. And EGA, for those who don't know us, Emirates Global Aluminium, we've been around for over 40 years. One of the fifth largest aluminium producers in the world, really a core industrial requirement, an industry that's required for many different requirements, from airlines to mobiles. And for us, talent development and partnership with universities started a long time ago. It didn't start yesterday. The innovation and the partnership with universities has been ongoing for 15 years, partnering with universities locally and internationally. Universities such as MIT, but also locally universities such as American University of Sharjah, Rochester Institute in Dubai, UAE University, HCT, Higher Colleges of Technology, Khalifa University, Abu Dhabi University. So we have lots and lots of examples of how we partner with universities. What's more important and what's key is that we've developed in partnership with these universities and students over 45 patents that we filed. So the importance is not just private sector, government partnership and education partnership, is what do you get as a result? And these patents have been developed both with international partnerships and with local partnerships, and we're really, really proud of our results, and resulting in millions of dollars in energy savings, emission savings, and we continually change and change our approach based on the requirements of the industry. So we've moved from, for example, our traditional energy efficiency to decarbonization to most recently AI technology as well. So it's been very exciting for us at EGA.
I like the idea of a two-way street where both tertiary education and businesses are enhancing each other's output and outcomes. Annie, I'll come to you in particular, interested to hear your thoughts, because one area of expertise for you is family businesses, family entrepreneurship. Family businesses are really, obviously everyone here knows, a key part of our economies in this region. But also there might be some misconceptions about innovation and change at family businesses. How important are they in terms of enhancing the future prosperity of each market?
Thank you very much, Mustafa. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm delighted to be here, and I now understand why I'm seated in between IMD and Iman. Let me start with the Business Families Institute, which was set up at SMU, Singapore Management University. And that was set up by me with the blessings of my president, Arnold de Meyer, and that's about 10 years ago. I think for business families in Southeast Asia, they are actually a large development of jobs, new jobs as well as sustainable jobs. So if we don't have a curriculum or we don't have an engagement with business families, we've actually lost one of the essence of being a management university. And I think IMD saw that many years ago, and they've been working on developing the talent within the families. But for us, being an undergraduate school, we also wanted to make sure that the students understand what it means to work for business families. And they have longer horizon. They are here today and they are still here tomorrow. So unlike the big tech companies that go in and out of countries, they go for lower cost, bigger markets. But many of our business families are homegrown. So we are now into about the third to fourth generation within Singapore. Singapore will be 65 years old in August. So we are a very young country, but many of the businesses that are set up in our country actually come from migrant population, from Indonesia, from India, from China, even from Middle East. So with these families, they come into the country, they have worked on a very wonderful system. They have built loyalty, they have built great jobs, but they are also pivoting because their next generation joining the family are interested in decarbonization, digitalization, and globalization. So they are not going to do the same thing that what their predecessors are doing. So how do we engage them? I think that's where universities, polytechnics, vocational universities are strategic assets of the country. We should have accelerators and incubators. We should have cases driven and written about business families. And when the next generation leaders join the family, they are interested to do business better, greener, broader. So they would love to engage children, students from the universities and the polytechnics and give them great ideas of co-creation. I love what Iman is saying. The aluminium industry, it looks archaic, it looks traditional. But how do we make green steel? How do we go in the direction of digitalization? And the next generation leaders have actually very strong motivation. So the why is more important than the what and the how. And if we could bring the ecosystem together, that's where all your new future jobs are going to be. Green jobs, care jobs, innovative jobs. And I think that's the reason why we have this wonderful forum, because the future of work needs many hands, hearts, and heads to come together. The future of jobs is a systems approach. And we should not be looking at it as just the job of the Ministry of Manpower of HR. It's the job of MOM for us in Singapore. It's also the job of higher education. It's also the job of MTI, Ministry of Trade and Industry, or even tourism and the rest of it. We need the whole of government approach, and not just whole government submit, but whole government in action within a country and across different countries.
You make a good point, Annie. Thank you so much for that. And it raises the bar for everyone here in terms of responsibility. But it also begs the question, how do you move forward with the new without getting rid of the old? And part of that is measurement, and that's something that IMD does very, very well. You measure the progress of economies towards that knowledge-driven goal, and that helps align with what needs to improve, but also what you're doing well. And is that something that you value at IMD?
Absolutely. So we are, in addition to having the oldest family business center and collaborating, of course, in Singapore as well, which we're delighted about. We also are the home of the World Competitiveness Center. And so every year we rank about 100 economies based on their competitiveness. And of course, you know that the Emirates do well in our ranking, I'm delighted to say. So does Singapore, so does Switzerland. There's something about relatively small, open, globally connected economies that leads them to do very well. But actually what all three of them have in common is in fact their ability to attract talent from around the world, to develop talent, to connect talent in interesting ways, to facilitate the movement of knowledge from education to the private sector and back. And of course, competitiveness ultimately is the driver of prosperity, which is what we're all looking for.
Thank you for that, David. I'll bring Iman in here because, when it comes to sort of planning the future, you're driven by not only the growth of the business, but the contribution to the wider economy as well. I mean, where in terms of the programs and the partnerships that you're engaging with universities and educational institutions, which ones do you feel will kind of yield sort of the most impact going forward?
I think when we look at our partnerships with universities, it starts way before someone goes to university. It starts at a very young age and getting children excited about our STEM fields. Over 56% of our graduates, for example, in the UAE in STEM fields are women. So how do we go into families and how do we make sure that they get excited about the STEM fields? When I go home and I speak to my children, I speak to them about electrolysis. I speak to them about the aluminium production. At EGA, they gave me, when I first joined, a small piece of aluminium. I took it home, I showed it to my children, and I got them excited about it. When they can touch and feel it, my youngest is 7 years old, my oldest is 13 years old, and so when they can attach a story, a personal story, they will consider these fields when they get to university or before. So when we get to high school, we actually partner with a number of schools all around the UAE to get them excited about our industry. And on the outside, it may seem very tough, but it's actually quite exciting. And our global mandate is exciting as well. And we're driving an economy, not just for the UAE, but being one of the 5th largest in the world is huge. So getting kids excited about it is part of our mandate. We've trained over 30,000 students as part of our partnership program with schools. But on to universities, what we've done is we've created an AI robot challenge. So we encourage students to come and solve some of our issues from AI and then connecting that to robotics. It's been exciting. We're on our way. I was just with our head of R&D yesterday talking about his talent management and his concern over the next year. And one of the programs actually we'll be piloting this year is a cathode robot, so an automated way in which we can keep people safe. So what we see from universities, local and international, is actually we're realizing it on the ground, and it's really exciting to see all these projects from all around the world being implemented. So lots of work. I can go on and on. I'm very excited about this field, but I'll hand it back over to you.
No, thank you so much. I mean, I think what we see here is the importance of not only collaboration, but forward thinking. Not planning for next year, but for the next 10, 15 years. I'm afraid we're going to have to leave this particular conversation at this point, but please join me in thanking our panelists for their insights and their time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.